introduce Alan from England, and Alan has multiple sclerosis. Welcome, Alan.
Hello.
Could you tell us when you first started getting MS symptoms?
Oh, probably in my early 20s, best part of 40 years ago. I used to get terrible headaches and tingling in my hands, and the medical people put it down to migraines and growing pains and that sort of thing. And then they all disappeared for years. I'd get a bad headache and then tingling in my hand now and again, but nothing really bad, nothing that I couldn't cope with, not as a young fit man.
Mm-hmm.
And then back in the early 80s, they came back again. The same sort of symptoms all came back, but more so. And I went to the doctor. He put me in for an MRI scan, and I went for the scan, but he sort of diagnosed that all the symptoms were caused through the stress of my job, because I had a massive job that was huge, £1 million targets, people working for me, traveling all over the country and all over the world, and massive stress job. And so I changed my job, and all my symptoms disappeared. Mm-hmm. So I never went back for the results of my MRI scan. Probably about the early 80s, probably about 88, I would think, the symptoms came back again. Mm-hmm. And so I went back to the doctor, and he said, well, I'll send you for another MRI scan and see a consultant, but you never came back for the results of your previous scan 10 years earlier. To which I replied, well, my symptoms disappeared, so I wasn't really interested. And he said, well, we had the doctor's dilemma that we couldn't tell you because you didn't come back, but we suspected multiple sclerosis at that time. I was really pleased he didn't tell me, because I'd had 10 years of symptom-free, changed my job, moved house, did all sorts of things, and without any worries that I might be ill later on in my life. Mm-hmm. But when the symptoms all came back again, then they MRI'd me again and told me that they were definitely 100% certain that it was MS, and I was totally devastated. I was in early 50s, pretty fit, playing great tennis, golf nearly every other day, having a great life, and all of a sudden they were telling me that in a couple of years I was going to be in a wheelchair. It was a pretty hard time.
Definitely. Yeah. So what were your symptoms at that time?
Well, my left leg used to get really heavy if I was doing active things, such as playing tennis. I'd play one set and win. I'd play the second set, and if I won it, that was fine. If I lost it, then I'd have to play a third set, and I just couldn't run around because it felt as though I just had a ball and chain strapped to my leg. So I'd always lose the third set, and that was when I went back to the doctor and said, look, there's definitely something wrong with me, and I want to know what it is. Then he told me about the previous MRI scan, so and then off we went from there, see a consultant and final diagnosis. Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then then what happened, further down the road?
Well, I got really depressed. Terrible. I was, I even attempted suicide and everything. I was in a real state. And then all of a sudden, I couldn't play tennis, I couldn't play golf, I couldn't go walking on the hills, I couldn't do anything that I used to do before. I was just got myself in a terrible state, got really down. And then all of a sudden, a guy that I was friendly with said, well, why don't you come and play bowls? And I said, bowls? It's a game for old men. And he said, Alan, put his arm around me and said, Alan, you're a bleep, bleep, bleep cripple. And I looked at him and said, do you know what? You're right. I can't do the things I want to. I'm a semi-cripple. Why don't I go and play bowls? And it was like a new lease of life for me. I started playing bowls more than I used to play tennis and golf and things like that, and got pretty good at it. Represented England in the Paralympics and won a silver medal. And
oh wow!
Bowl saved my life. Mm-hmm. And over the years, I've learned to manage my MS until I heard about LDN, and that must be 5 or 6 years ago. Mm-hmm. And I started taking LDN 5 or 6 years ago from Bob Lawrence in Swansea, and I've been on it ever since. And my symptoms have not progressed hardly at all since in 5 or 6 years. I'm virtually no worse now than I was 5 or 6 years ago before I started taking it.
Well, that's amazing, because you said you were secondary progressive, is that right?
I was secondary progressive, that's right, yeah.
Well,
I was gradually going down, and then it's just stopped. I go to the oxygen chambers every week and things like this, but that didn't really do. It made me feel better, but it didn't really halt the progression. But LDN seems to have stopped it virtually in its tracks. So long live LDN.
Did you have any side effects when you first started?
Nothing, absolutely nothing. Within a week of taking it, all the symptoms that I had, my tiredness especially. If I played bowls, I would play in the afternoon. I'd come home and go to bed and not do anything else for the rest of the day. But that was fine. I could manage that. That's not a problem. Sometimes now I play bowls twice a day, and I'm 5 years older and doing a lot more. So I put it all down to LDN, and can't understand why everybody on it with MS doesn't get it on the NHS. Can't understand it at all. But that's another argument altogether.
Yeah. So what else has LDN done to help you? You know, symptom-wise, you said about pain and your
the pain is virtually just not just. My leg used to be sore in my muscle all the time, but you learn to live with that and you don't sort of take too much of it. But now, unless I've done an awful lot, like today for instance, I've driven all the way back from Brighton. My wife drove some of the way, but I drove most of the way. Now tonight my leg will be really sore because I've been bouncing around in the car all day and I've done a lot. But so tonight I'll take a couple of sleeping pills and rub some stuff in the leg and things like this, and by tomorrow I'll be back to normal again. But LDN has like the tiredness, the main thing, the pain, another thing gone altogether. I used to get up 3 or 4 times a night and go to the loo. Maybe once, twice, maybe. Depending on whether I've been out on the beer or whatever. But the only thing that I find that affects me is alcohol. And I don't know whether that's because of the LDN or because of my MS or things like that, but I can't drink anything like I used to drink when I was 10 years younger. But could any of us when we're in our 60s?
I don't know, I'm not there yet.
No, you're not there yet. Well, I can't drink. Drinking affects my walking, and nothing seems to stop that at all. So I don't drink very much at all, unless I'm just going from my back patio up to bed, and then I might. But if I'm out anywhere else and things like that, I very rarely drink very much. But most of my symptoms were all improved when I started taking LDN.
Good.
Okay.
Yep, that's fine. So what would you say to other people who have been given that diagnosis of the label of having multiple sclerosis and they're thinking of LDN?
Well, okay. First of all, I would say to anybody that's been diagnosed, it's not the end of the world. There are certainly lots worse things you can get rather than MS. I'm not saying it's a nice disease, but on the other hand, there's certainly lots worse ones around. And I think a lot of MS is how you treat it and your state of mind, etc. So many people say, LDN? No. Or how's that going to affect my other medicine? I have no idea how at all, but why don't you try it and see what it's like? My doctor doesn't say I can take it. I'm not going to take it. I said, fine. My doctor said, you don't know what it's doing to you in 10 years' time. And I said, well, you guarantee I'll be here in 10 years' time. I think to anybody who's thinking of taking it, try it and see. If it doesn't do you any good, don't take it. But if it does you some good, keep on taking it. So I'm a big believer that if you try anything, it might help you. And if it doesn't work, okay, so you paid some money and it's cost you some time and some effort, but it might have done you some good.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, that's the phone.
Try it and see.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Alan. And if just get that. Whoops.
Okay.
Yep. Okay. Thank you. All right.
Have you ever read a book called
just one second. Hello.
Okay.
Hello. 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 Can I phone you back in a minute? Yeah. Okay. Bye. I'm sorry about that. It was my daughter.
It's okay. I've got one of these things called a drop foot stimulator.
Oh yes, I have heard of them.
Yeah.
Yes.
The hospital that organises it and things like this is a place called Oddstock in Salisbury, in Wiltshire, and they did a book all about people with drop foot stimulators and things like this, and that was very interesting actually, because so many people all had the same type of symptoms, and I was the only one out of everybody that took LDN.
Oh, right.
And they couldn't believe that this wasn't available on the NHS. So hopefully one day it might be, but the amount of money that it costs at the moment, I don't think it's a fortune for anybody to take it.
No.
So so I'd recommend everybody to